I'm delighted to be joined by the Vaccines Minister, Nadhim Zawahi. I might ask you a little bit about this controversy a little bit later, but I'm going to start with your core responsibility, which is vaccines. We got some very encouraging data overnight about the extent to which even one dose massively cuts the risk of transmitting the vaccine person to person. So why can't the government say with confidence that after June the 21st, lives will be normal again?
A really important question. So if you recall when the Prime Minister announced the 4 steps, the roadmap to reopening the economy, taking our lives back, he talked about the 4 tests. One is the vaccine deployment continues at scale, which it is. Vaccine efficacy.
And we're seeing that it is
and
efficacious.
We're seeing efficacious. Let me take you through this. 3, that infection rates need to be suppressed because viruses try and mutate by infecting more people. And the last one is the mutation. So those are 4 things. Now, if the vaccines are at 85% efficacy and we reach 85% of people, adults, are vaccinated, and we are now at 2/3 of adults with 1 dose, quarter with 2 doses, that is still only 72%. So there's still a sizable population for the virus to infect. So we have to be really careful. We're going to continue to vaccinate at scale, but with it, and this is where the Prime Minister is absolutely right, we've got to be able to surge test by postcode, isolate, and gene sequence. So we're sequencing about 1/3 of positives. We want to increase that because the way out of this is a combination of the vaccination programme and testing and sequencing at scale. That is why we have to be careful. The 4 weeks plus 1 gap between each step, so the 5-week gap, is deliberate because you need 4 weeks of data collection and a week of analysis so that we can get to the next stage. Now, the good news is that vaccines aren't just very good at protecting you as an individual, but clearly the Public Health England data that's just been released demonstrates that they also impact household transmission, reduce it by 50%, which is really good news. So we just have to be careful, as the Prime Minister has said, as Jonathan Van Tam, as Matt Hancock has said, you know, we do this carefully now, we will be in a really good place by the time we get to the 21st of June.
Now, you've also announced that we've ordered tens of millions of doses of the Pfizer booster. If you've had the AstraZeneca vaccine, will the Pfizer booster be the thing you get? So
what we're doing, and this is what my focus is at the moment, is to make sure we give the scientists, Jonathan Van Tam and his team, and they've got this Cov Boost clinical trial that's going ahead in June, which looks at which booster would work best for us.
So just is the short answer we don't know yet?
Well, no, what I'm doing is making sure they've got all the options. So the reason we've bought more Pfizer, we've got Novavax, which looks good against both the dominant strain at the moment, which is the Kent strain, and against the South African strain. We're talking to AstraZeneca about their vaccine variant. We're talking to Moderna and others as well, because we want to give the scientists the ability to future-proof the programme. So optionality, so that when they decide that, for example, the most vulnerable, the 1 to 4 cohort, if you recall, the 88% of mortality comes from those first 15 million. If they need a boost so that the vaccine is more durable, whether it's September or later in the year or next year, then they have that available to them, hence why we've
but just to be clear, we don't yet know whether, if you've had the Pfizer, you have to have the Pfizer booster, or we could mix and match.
So the clinical trials, we're doing both. We're doing a mix and match trial and a Cov Boost trial.
And then we've got to go to the break in a second, but I've got one other quick question before we go to the break. We had, I think, a contractual right to take 5 million AstraZeneca doses from the Serum Institute in India. Are we just going to get... I mean, many people would say we should just give those doses to the Indians. Are we going to do that?
So the AstraZeneca supply chain is global. Part of it is Serum, where, by the way, Serum is producing 70 million doses a month, about to rise to 100 million doses a month for India, at no profit.
But we've still got an astonishing crisis in India, so I was just wondering whether we would give up that 5 million.
Well, that's... AstraZeneca has to obviously fulfill their commitment to us from the global supply chain, but they're doing that for India as well through Serum with 70 million a month. So our conversations with AstraZeneca is to make sure that
So it doesn't sound as though the government is going to put any pressure on AstraZeneca to do that, then, is what you're saying?
Well, but my whole point is that if Serum is producing 70 million a month for India, as long as we're not taking away from the Indian need or any other country's need, then, of course, AstraZeneca has to supply our contract. That's why contracts are important, ultimately. And, of course, they're doing it through their global supply chain, including in the UK at Oxford Biomedical.
Listen, tons more to talk to you about. Don't go away. There'll be much more, as I say, from Nadhim Zawahi and from my other brilliant guests. Come back in a minute. Welcome back. I'm thrilled that the Vaccines Minister, Nadhim Zawahi, is still with me. So I am now going to talk a bit about the story of the day. Look, if the Prime Minister did nothing wrong in the way that he borrowed money from the Tory party to pay for the furnishings and the redecoration, why won't he just give us the details?
Well, first of all, I think the Prime Minister, as today we witness at Dispatch Box, has been asked umpteen times about this. And I have to tell you that interview you've just done with Keir Starmer is extraordinary in my book. He had 10 minutes. He's got an election next Thursday, the 6th. Not one offer of a policy or an idea for the voters. Extraordinary. I mean, even John Cruddas did a better job than that. I mean, P.T. Barnum will be proud of Keir Starmer. He is the ultimate
make your political point, but answer the question. If he did nothing wrong, why won't he give us the details?
Well, first of all, he has explained this.
Because most of us can say how we paid for, a paint job and a
He said that he paid for it himself. He said that if there are any other declarations, his officials, rightly, both the CAB Secretary, who gave evidence this week, and we've got Lord Geidt now looking at this, if there needs to be other declarations, he will make them in the usual way. But this is bandwagon.
Hang a second. When you redecorated your house, did you have to have an official investigation to tell you how you paid for it?
Well, first, actually, that's a really good point, because the voters, the viewers tonight, were saying, did the taxpayer pay for it, or did Boris pay for it? No, Boris paid for it. That's the big difference. Tony Blair...
Quite a long time
Tony Blair charged the taxpayer, I think, about £300,000 for a fit-out. Now, we're hearing from Dana and from John Cruddas, they're not getting many emails on this. I think what your viewers want to talk about is, are we going to deliver the vaccination programme? Are we going to be able to level up and make the investment we need when we build back better out of this huge pandemic that the whole world is struggling with? Not once, 10 minutes on your show, and the leader of the opposition could not offer you a single policy. Aaron Bastani, who's a big voice in the Labour movement, tonight said, you know what, Keir, you didn't declare who your people who wrote the cheques for your campaign when he was campaigning to be leader of the Labour Party. I worry for Keir, because this could be curtains for Keir, because Boris showed real passion today in the Dispatch Box, showed real commitment, talking about the things that matter to people, which is vaccines.
Anyway, that was masterful deflection tactics. You've been taking a leaf out of the Prime Minister's book, obviously. But listen, you know the Prime Minister incredibly well. He frequently uses highly colourful language. Are you absolutely certain he didn't make the bodies pile high remark?
So I have been literally since November, when he rang to say, I want you to do this job, in contact with him daily, because he wants a daily report on the vaccination programme. We brief him every Tuesday. Not once, I would say to you to the contrary, he said the opposite. He said, I am the Prime Minister that has to make sure I deliver the vaccination programme forensically to protect the most vulnerable as quickly as possible at scale. So I want you to focus on that, Nadhim, and deliver it, because we have to save lives. Too many people have died because of this disease, and we have to say that's the language.
Well, I think the moment that's going to be hardest for him is when Dominic Cummings, in just a few weeks' time, tells MPs that he thinks, quite a lot of additional people died who wouldn't have had to die if the Prime Minister had taken his advice and locked down earlier. It's going to be a difficult moment, isn't it?
Well, look, obviously Dominic Cummings will come before MPs and will answer those questions. I can't sit here and say to you what he will say. All I would say to you, my experience, day to day, the Prime Minister's absolute focus is to protect as many lives as possible. And we've seen with the vaccination programme between December and end of March, 10,500 people are alive today because of what Boris Johnson did to make sure we get the vaccines and deploy them at scale.
Nadhim, to be continued. Thanks for coming in.